which quarterback will the 49ers sign this year? I think there is almost a certainty they're going to sign one. They signed Nate Sudfeld last year, gave him guaranteed money, and he had never started a game. Was he even drafted? Like, he was not a talent, not an athlete, not a talent, and they gave him guaranteed money to be a third quarterback on the team. Now he's gone, and you have two quarterbacks. I think they're going to sign a quarterback. Both these guys are coming off injuries. I think they need to sign a quarterback who has started and won games, someone that they can feel confident that they can win with. And it's not going to be Jimmy. That safety net is gone. I think he's going to go start. Again, I think he's going to go start with the Raiders. He could be the Patriots. But they need to sign someone, maybe preferably cheaper. They brought Jimmy in for like $6.5 million, and he got to 10 with incentives. Someone more like for the league minimum, but not a backup. Not just a backup. Yeah. Someone who could start, who has started, who could start, and you could envision having success with this team. Let's start naming potential guys.
The guy I want probably the most, I was looking at it this morning, probably honestly, is Jacoby Brissett.
Okay, let's talk about Jacoby.
I feel like what he did in Cleveland, I mean, he looked better than Deshaun Watson, to be honest. And he won games there. He did okay, man. His stats weren't that bad. I think that's the guy that I would probably want out of everybody that's kind of in that mid-range. You know, obviously they're not going to be able to afford these top-end guys, but I think Jacoby Brissett, man, he looked like the better quarterback last year. He looked better than Deshaun Watson did. And they spent, what are they spending, $50 million a year for him? You could probably get Brissett for like the same contract Jimmy had.
I think that's about right.
Yeah.
But to me, that's a little expensive. See, last year he was at $4.6 million with Cleveland, and he did well. And I think it's going to be interesting. Is he going to get a starting job? He might.
It's possible.
He might.
Yeah.
See, to me, there's a few names that I ruled off. Brissett was borderline because he's good. I think him, Darnold, and Baker are not quite like written off league minimum type guys. I think those are guys who are going to get looks. And I'm looking at like Geno Smith, a guy who has some talent, but has maybe been written off too soon and can be picked up off the scrap heap for the veteran minimum. The Seahawks signed him 4 years in a row to 1 year deals for nothing. And then eventually he started and played well. So let's start like there at the bottom of the barrel. There's Jared Stidham, but I think he's he started 2 games in his career. He looked good against the Niners, hasn't won a game. I predict he goes back to the Raiders as the backup behind Jimmy. I don't know that the Niners can bring him in and be like, hey, if anyone goes down, we can start Jared Stidham and feel good about that. I will go a little bit.
Yeah, McDaniel's bringing Stidham back.
I would think he would.
Yeah,
I would think he would. He's already invested 4 years developing him.
There's another high talent quarterback drafted pretty high in the first round, by the name of Teddy B.
Teddy B?
Last year in Miami.
Teddy B.
He's about the same age Geno was when Seattle grabbed him. I don't know.
Teddy B.
Could be another possible also.
So I was thinking about him and Jameis Winston. They both concern me because on the Niners.
Oh yeah.
On the Niners.
Yeah.
Those two, they might want to avoid the Niners because the Niners can't keep any quarterback healthy. So Teddy B, Jameis Winston, I'm a little concerned about them. So I was saying Geno Smith. So let's think about Geno Smith. If I had mentioned to you a couple years ago, hey, the Niners should take a flyer on Geno Smith, you kind of be like, okay, it's not something you'd be very excited about 2 years ago. So when I say this next name, it's going to be in that vein. Okay, a second round pick who's been in the league a few years, probably shouldn't have started as soon as he did, but did start, got benched, and now has pretty much been written off. And when I say his name, you're going to be like, but I'm trying to think of the next Geno Smith here.
Well, I don't want to guess. Is it Gardner?
No.
Okay, who?
Former second round pick, started some games.
Let me see.
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock.
Now, the Niners probably could do better than Drew Lock, but let me just make the case for Drew Lock. You could get him for the veteran minimum. 1 year, $1 million. I mean, he's a total low risk, but he's mobile. He's big. He has a good arm. He started 4 years in college, like Brock Purdy at Mizzou. He shouldn't have been starting right away on that Broncos team. He went and played for the Seahawks for a year. To me, he is sort of in that Geno Smith trajectory. Also, what was the thing with Geno? Might have been a little immature at first. Same thing with Drew. Only question is Drew Lock someone that would be like a multi-year kind of reclamation project like Geno was? Could you really put him in next year if you needed to? If Brock wasn't ready or Trey was hurt, could you be, hey, Drew, go win games for us? Is he there yet? Or is he sort of a multi-year reclamation project? I don't know.
But Geno beat out Drew Lock. So he's going to be, I mean, unless something changed, right? Didn't Geno beat out Drew Lock this last season?
But again, Geno had been on the team for 4 years. Geno is older. And Geno's a Pro Bowler. Geno's a good player. Yeah.
What about, I could see that. There's two guys that still, that I'm still thinking about too. What about Cooper Rush, man?
Cooper Rush is an option. Yeah, that's true.
He did a really good job for the Cowboys when he was there. I think he only lost one game? He did well, man. He came in and people were saying he was better than Dak Prescott for a second there. And he's available as well. He's only 29 years old. Made 977.
I hadn't thought of that. Cooper Rush is interesting because he has started. He hasn't started big games, but he's a lot like Brock Purdy, right? He's like, he can distribute the ball. He doesn't have a big arm, but on the Niners, quarterbacks who are like physically limited, but point guard types who just distribute the ball can have a lot of success because you got McCaffrey, Debo. So yeah, Cooper Rush is an option. I teased the whole thing as who like the next Geno Smith. Drew Lock was my big reveal. I know you weren't going to be excited about it, but I think that's the starting point. That's the starting point. There's other options, as you just mentioned. Taylor Heineke's an option. If you feel like, Drew Lock, he's bigger and he's mobile and he's got some gifts that you could maybe harness, maybe. Well, if you want someone who can win with next year, Taylor Heineke. He beat the Eagles he's the only guy other than Mahomes who beat the freaking Eagles last year. And he's smart. He's won some big games. He's played in big games. He runs around. He's mobile. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but I mean, when Brock Purdy started catching hold with the Niners, a lot of people were like, he kind of reminds me of Taylor Heineke. Well, maybe Taylor Heineke could have success if Brock Purdy could on this team. Heineke. Okay.
I got one more. What about Mike White?
Yeah. I mean, Mike White is decent. He had some success. He got beat up on the Jets behind a beat up offensive line. I mean, that's another guy you could have for the veteran minimum. 1 year deal, totally nothing.
Zach Wilson he looked better than Wilson,
Mike White's another one. I wouldn't be surprised if they went that direction. I got more names though. Now, if you want to go a little bit higher end, quarterbacks who aren't free agents yet, but could get released. Okay. Marcus Mariota. If they cut him, they benched him. He left. They want to go with Ritter. Mariota's cap number is $14 million this year. If they cut him before June 1, they save $12 million. They're going to cut him. They're going to cut him. So Mariota isn't great, but he beat the Niners, and he can run a lot of the same stuff Trey Lance does. So if the Niners really want to commit to a new style of offense with Trey Lance and some quarterback running stuff, well, now you got a backup who can do the same stuff. It's a guy who's been in the league, he's been a starter, he's won games, he's fairly accurate, he's got a quickest release. You could do worse than signing And again, I bet you could get Marcus Mariota for $2 million, $3 million. What's he going to do? Where else is he going to go?
And he was pretty accurate in the short game, and that he could run that QB option stuff and just keep things short and probably do really well. The difference between him and Trey Lance can go deep on you, but Mariota's pretty accurate.
He can't go deep.
Yeah, but he's pretty accurate in the short game, Mariota, so that could be, and he can run. He can run the offense stuff. Yeah.
I actually think he winds up with Arizona because they don't have – Kyler's going to be hurt. They have that kind of an offense. I could see them bringing in Marcus Mariota and being like, dude, you can start this year and we'll sort of feature you. Kind of like what Atlanta did. Like, hey, we'll run you around and you can start, but you're not our long-term guy, but it's sort of like a showcase opportunity. But at the same time, the Niners can kind of pitch that to quarterbacks too. Like, hey, we can't promise you a starting job. You're going to have to compete. We like our young guys, but we played 4 quarterbacks last year. You're probably going to get on the field at some point, and we got some great weapons. When you do get on the field, you might just end up being the offensive player of the month, like Brock Purdy was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think there's an argument for that as well. Yeah.
You could do worse.
I would like personally, it'd be nice to take a risk on a kid that you don't know what his limitations are. I feel like with Mariota, we know, right? We kind of know. There's some guys that you may not know like what their potential is just because they haven't played a ton. You know,
I got a name for you. I got one more name for you.
All right.
This guy's, I think younger. I think he's younger than Mariota. Okay. He's still under contract. Why I'm long build up, but I think Mariota, I felt like might be a better fit if the Niners want to do a quarterback driven run game offense, but there's no indication that they necessarily do. This guy I think is a better quarterback than Mariota, and he's younger, and I think he's going to get cut too. Mitchell Trubisky.
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell Trubisky is a bit of a punchline because he got drafted ahead of Patrick Mahomes, but he's 29. He had a winning record. He was 29-21 with the Bears. Who was the last quarterback who had a winning record with the Bears? Jim McMahon. I'm pretty sure it was Jim McMahon. Justin Fields, who I like, isn't even close. Jay Cutler wasn't over 500. So I feel like he was really written off and unfairly, dumped on because he's not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So then he went and was a backup for a year for $2 million under Josh Allen, was coached by Brian Daboll, who's a hell of a coach. Then last year never really had a chance with the Steelers because they drafted a quarterback round 1. They're probably going to cut him too. Although they could keep him as a $10 million backup or they could cut him and save $8 million. I think they'll cut him. And then I think the Niners could sign Trubisky for probably $2-3 million, promise him nothing. And again, I mean, if Brock Purdy could ball out on the Niners, why couldn't Trubisky?
Yeah.
He's every bit as talented as Geno Smith. He can run.
I wouldn't be mad at that. Mitchell Trubisky, I wouldn't be mad at that as a sign. And now if it was our main starting quarterback, and
no,
right? But
one of the guys.
Yeah,
one of the guys.
I wouldn't
one
be
of the
mad
guys
at that at all. I think that might be a good pickup.
One of the things I like about him too is that he spent a year with Daboll. He spent a year with Brian Daboll in Buffalo. And one of the things, Brian Daboll's a hell of a coach. He's done really good work with two for sure, Josh Allen and Daniel Jones. And what both of those guys have in common, not only did their accuracy improve, but they have a great feel. They've developed a great feel for when and how to run. Like, it's not a whole lot of quarterback driven runs in Buffalo and New York, but those guys scramble. They pick their spots and they get down. Well, Josh Allen doesn't get down, but Daniel Jones does. I feel like Daboll does a good job of showing maybe not dual threat quarterbacks, but mobile quarterbacks how to use their legs effectively. And Trubisky's that guy too. Yeah. Lance could be that guy, but the Niners can't get Brian Daboll. But again, he's spent the year with Daboll. I think I'm not really holding what happened against him in Pittsburgh last year. That team kind of sucks. And I'm not sure that Kenny Pickett is better than him. I feel like they were going nowhere and they eventually felt like they needed to play their rookie.
I got a question for you, man. Who do you want the 49ers to sign, and who do you think they sign out of all the quarterbacks?
I want them to sign Trubisky. Okay. If they could get Trubisky, I think that would be great. But he might draw interest. I mean, if you're really looking for someone that no one is interested in, is on the scrap heap, I think Drew Lock would be interested. Him or Heineke. Drew Lock is a guy who has potential to become like a Geno Smith Pro Bowl guy. Heineke is a guy you can win with right away. Mm-hmm. So maybe both. Freaking both of them. Bring them both into camp and see who's better. Those two are interesting to me. Mariota, really all of them. Brissett, I think, gets a job. I think Brissett gets a job. Mariota could get a job with Arizona. Trubisky is interesting. I feel like everyone makes fun of him because some team decided to draft him ahead of Mahomes. That's not his fault.
Yeah.
He didn't, and then he got drafted by the Bears. The Bears suck. That's a death sentence for quarterbacks. Look at Fields.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think he could, if Purdy could ball out in the Niners, I think Trubisky could too.
I would like to see Brissett if possible, or Cooper Rush would be great. But who do you think the 49ers go with? Out of everyone we talked about, who do you think the 49ers are going to sign if you had to predict right now?
Jacob Eason.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
Kurt Benkert.
Jacob
Seriously.
Eason. Yeah, seriously. Eason is from...
is Nate Sudfeld... Wait, hold on. Is Nate Sudfeld a free agent?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah.
Then they're going to sign Nate Sudfeld.
That's what I said that about 2 weeks ago. Everyone's thinking...
They're going to sign Sudfeld.
Yeah, Sudfeld could be the guy. Easton's from out here. I believe he's from El Dorado Hills in Folsom area. So...
see, to me, like the Niners, they have a job. They have a mission this offseason. It is to get 4 quarterbacks on your roster, 3 on the active, 1 on the practice squad, and they all have to be better than Nate Sudfeld. All 4.
That's the goal. Yeah.
They have to be better than Sudfeld. They have to be better than Josh Johnson.
Yeah.
Don't bring back Sudfeld, man. Come on.
No.
Trubisky has started 2 playoff games, never threw a pick in either one, didn't win either one. One of them was the double doink. I mean, come on. You could do better than Nate Sudfeld. Come on. But they're going to sign Sudfeld, I bet you.
I tweeted that out a few weeks ago. I'm like, you guys are thinking Derek Carr, 49ers are thinking Nate Sudfeld. That's what I tweeted.
Yeah. They're going to bring back freaking Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard. I bet both they could, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately.
But we can't let that happen.
Yeah. I hope we're wrong. I think ideally I'd want Teddy Bridgewater. I feel like he's in that mid-range, or not Teddy Bridgewater, Jacoby Brissett. I feel like he's in that mid-range. They could probably afford him, and he could probably win some games for the 49ers. And then
he's probably better than Jimmy.
Yeah, he is. And if you go down further, maybe Cooper Rush I'd be excited about, but I think you're right.
Cooper Rush was an interesting suggestion.
Yeah.
Let me look up Cooper Rush real quick. Real quick. Because, I mean, he actually had success this year, right?
Yeah.
Hold on. He was 4-1. He only completed 58% of his throws. His quarterback rating was 80. I mean, he didn't put up great numbers, but he was 4-1.
Cowboys fans were talking about he's better than Dak when he was balling.
Dak was losing games for them. Like, Dak lost the playoff game for them. Is Brock Purdy a better quarterback than Cooper Rush? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he would have a lot more to work with here on the Niners than he did on the Cowboys. Would have Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb. That's great. The Niners have more.
Yeah. I'd be targeting Brissett if I could, but if not, I'd go for a guy like
Cooper Rush is way better than Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah. For sure.
Kyle, if you bring back Nate Sudfeld and you don't even look at these guys, we just listed 7 guys for you. Yeah. And they're all going to be cheap. Do not bring back Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah. Please don't.
We're just gonna look right in the camera for like the next 10 seconds. Kyle, don't do it. This is a public service announcement. You can do better.
He's definitely
what I like about Pete Carroll and the whole just Geno Smith thing is it's not like, hey, let me find some non-athlete quarterback that's under the radar that no one else wants who fits my scheme. Like, don't do that. That's what Kyle always does. Why don't you go find an athlete with potential, with mobility, size, and arm strength, who has been unfairly written off because whatever, and make it work. That's what Pete Carroll did, and that's why I suggested Drew Lock. I feel like Kyle's always drawn to these guys who are 6 feet tall and have no arm strength, but they fit his system. It's like, great, but can't you find someone with a little bit more ability, please, and make him fit your system too, or find a system that works around him? I don't just saying.
Kyle is a system coach. He really is. I mean, I like him. He's a good coach, but he's a system coach. He wants to find people and he wants to plug them into his system. And he doesn't really do much catering to their strengths and weaknesses. He's just trying to find a guy that fits into his scheme.
And that's how you have CJ Beathard on your roster for 4 years. I mean, you want to have the best athletes in the league. And Kyle, at this most important position, oftentimes is trying to get by with, guys who are scraping by. And Brock Purdy did admirably for a while, but he got hurt too. Mm-hmm. The thing about Geno is he's not great either. The Niners beat him 3 times, but he didn't miss a snap this season. Imagine if he played for the 49ers and imagine if the Niners had a quarterback who never missed a snap and had a little bit of mobility and the arm to push it down the field. My God.
Yeah.
They might win they probably win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But they haven't found that guy yet. I mean, God love Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. They haven't proven that they're those guys yet either. And Kyle hasn't proven he can keep anyone. So maybe here we are. Here we are. Me and Ryan going through quarterbacks that could possibly bail you out. Yeah. Kyle's passed on a lot of quarterbacks that he didn't think would be anything, that he didn't think had a future, that proved him wrong. So here you go.
Maybe they can hit on in the draft, man. They probably need to draft a quarterback in the middle of somewhere like round 4 or somewhere like round 3, something like that.
Well, I was thinking you sign a guy with starting experience and then draft a guy that you can stash on your practice squad. But if the Niners draft a guy in round 7, maybe they'll feel like, that's the next Brock Purdy, and someone's gonna swoop him
from UCLA. What's his name?
Kyle won't. He's gonna take some non-athlete who's a pocket style quarterback. Yeah. No way. He's not gonna do it.
Yeah.
No arm. But that's fine. He got it right with Brock Purdy. But you got to do it again. I hope he doesn't take Tanner McKee from Stanford. Not a fan.
No.
Not a fan. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
DTR is better than him.